There's a level of discipline that shifts from self-improvement to self-armament. It's quiet. It's not motivated. It's simply inevitable. This isn't the discipline of New Year's resolutions. This is the discipline of a man others fear. Not because he is a brute, but because he is unbreakable. He is a ghost in the gym. He is the first person in the office, the last one to leave. He is never late. He doesn't complain. He doesn't negotiate with his commitments. He does not need to hype himself up. He just does what he already decided. The internal friction is gone. The weakness has been excised. You cannot bribe him. You cannot distract him. You cannot break him. He operates on a system so old, so ruthless, it bypasses the weakness of your modern brain. Dopamine made you soft. Discipline makes you permanent. If you are comfortable, click away now. This is not motivation. This is initiation. We are going to make you an unbreakable person with frightening consistency. But you have to decide now, right now. You cannot come back later. Meet Raphael. Raphael knew what he needed to do. He had the plan. He had the books. He had the high-energy, motivational videos. The cycle always began the same way. Monday. Raphael wakes up at 5 a.m. He feels a sudden, powerful rush of optimism. This is it. The new him. He hits the workout, sends the texts, and crushes the morning. The motivation feels electric. Tuesday. The memory of Monday is still warm. He repeats the actions, but the rush is softer. It takes effort now. He catches himself staring at his phone for 5 minutes longer than planned. He shrugs it off. I earned it. Wednesday. He wakes up to the alarm, and the first thing he feels is not excitement, but a deep, physical heaviness. The internal negotiation begins instantly. Just an extra 30 minutes. I'll make it up tonight. He loses the morning. Friday. The entire system is in a state of slow collapse. He misses the workout entirely. He eats the food he promised he wouldn't touch. He sits on the couch feeling the familiar acidic wash of guilt. Next week, the cycle restarts. Monday morning brings the manufactured motivation. The rush returns. The failure is inevitable. He bought planners. He tried cold showers. He watched the motivational speech, feeling the familiar spike of energy fade before the video was over. He wasn't weak. He wasn't lazy. He was fighting something far more insidious. He was fighting a biological system with a psychological tool. He was using willpower to fight the physics of identity. He wasn't weak. He was fighting something he didn't understand. The problem is the modern concept of motivation. It is a transaction. You do X and you expect a feeling, a reward, or an external result. Motivation makes your commitment reversible. If you feel bad, you stop. If the reward is delayed, you stop. If the process is difficult, you stop. The samurai, the Stoics, and the Zen masters understood that for a commitment to survive, it must be irreversible. It cannot be undone by a bad mood or a difficult day. It is an ancient concept rooted in continuous practice without gaps. But the mechanism for its success is identity enforcement. It begins with a decision that is witnessed. Think of an initiation ceremony. You don't whisper your oath to yourself in the dark. You stand before others. You declare it. This declaration isn't for them, it's for you. When Raphael nearly planned to wake up early, he had a reversible commitment. If he failed, nobody knew but him. There was no cost, no enforcement. When he publicly declares his new identity, I am an unbreakable person with frightening consistency, and names the fixed actions that define that identity, he builds an enforcement mechanism. This is the psychological architecture of identity. A thing becomes true when it is witnessed and enforced. If a monk makes an oath and then breaks it, the entire monastery knows. His place in the hierarchy, his reputation, his very self-definition is at stake. The cost of failure is astronomical. Your weakness lives in the privacy of your decisions. The modern man decides in his head, fails in secret, and negotiates the consequences internally. The consequence is merely a feeling of guilt, which he then comforts with a distraction. An unbreakable person eliminates the negotiation before it starts. They don't decide if they will train tomorrow. They have already decided. They made a decision that was so costly to reverse that the only easy path left is forward. This shifts the battle from willpower, a limited resource, to identity, a fixed architecture. When the alarm rings, the modern man says, "Do I feel like going?" The Guji practitioner says, "I am a person who does this, therefore I do this." It's not a choice, it's a statement of self-definition. This is the secret of the system. You don't need more motivation. You need a higher cost for breaking character. You need to make your commitment irreversible. The system is in place. The declaration has been made. But the human mind is not a clean slate. Identity enforcement is a powerful shield, but when the alarm goes off at 5 a.m., the fight still happens. It just moves location. For Raphael, the internal war was immediate and visceral. His body felt like lead. His mind, the moment it registered the lack of external threat, began to manufacture excuses with astonishing efficiency. You had a hard day yesterday. Rest is essential for muscle recovery. Skipping once doesn't break the identity. You can start fresh tomorrow. This is the internal negotiation, and it is the sound of your old, weaker identity fighting for its life. It uses sophisticated, logical-sounding arguments to justify comfort. But Raphael had an irreversible commitment. He had declared a fixed, non-negotiable time. When the clock hit 5, the activity, a 30-minute run, was not a suggestion. It was a condition of his existence as an unbreakable person. The old self doesn't fight the run, it fights the time, it fights the friction of the transition. It knows that if it can delay the start by 5 minutes, it can delay it by 20, and then, eventually, it can negotiate it away entirely. The physical resistance is just your brain trying to conserve fuel. It perceives starting a difficult task as a significant expenditure of energy. It throws up psychological roadblocks, tiredness, distraction, anxiety, to protect that fuel. The Guji system works by ignoring the noise. It doesn't try to feel motivated, it just tries to start the fixed action at the fixed time. Raphael learned to treat the resistance like a biological function. Predictable, automatic, and irrelevant. It was noise, not data. He didn't need to feel good to start. He only needed to be a person who starts at 5. He only won the 5 moment. That partial victory was enough to enforce the identity. The moment Raphael committed, he discovered a subtle, pervasive weakness in modern life, the illusion of infinite options. Should I do a weights workout or cardio? Should I write for 60 minutes or 90? Should I start with email or the hardest task? Every choice, every morning, bleeds energy and invites negotiation. When you ask, "What should I do?" you are inviting your old weak self to offer the path of least resistance. The Guji system eliminates this question entirely. There is only the one way. If the fixed action is run 5 kilometers, then the identity is not enforced by running. It is enforced by running 5 kilometers. Not 4.9, not 5.1. Exactly the fixed commitment. If you decide to write for 60 minutes, you write for 60 minutes. The output quality is secondary. The action is primary. The consistency is the goal. This is dogmatic. It is uncomfortably repetitive. It sounds rigid and boring. And this rigidity is a feature, not a bug. The annoyance of the routine is the friction that polishes the blade of your identity. When you remove choice, you remove the decision-making under stress that leads to failure. If a samurai's ritual demands he rise at the 3rd bell and practice the 1st kata, he does not debate the merits of a new kata or a later wake-up time. The discussion is already closed. The way is fixed. They will mock your rigid schedule. They will say, "Loosen up, be flexible. Life needs balance." They are correct for their identity. But they do not understand that the cost of their flexibility is their inconsistency. They are giving you advice that keeps them average. When they criticize your fixed path, you are receiving the signal of success. You are becoming predictably consistent, which is frightening to people who are predictably inconsistent. The rigidity ensures that the system is portable and non-negotiable. If you must choose the type of workout, you are dependent on your energy and mood. If you merely execute the fixed 5K run, you are dependent only on the clock. This is the one way. You do not ask what to do. You do the thing you have already committed to doing, in the exact way you have committed to doing it, every single time. It is boring, it is annoying, it is inevitable. The most destructive lie of the disciplined life is the concept of all or nothing. The moment Raphael missed his fixed action, his old self would whisper, "It's over. You broke the streak. You can start again Monday." This is the failure mechanism weaponized. It turns a single stumble into a catastrophic, week-long retreat. Guji, or continuous practice without apps, destroys this thinking. The commitment is not to perfection. The commitment is to continuity. Think of a river. If the river stops flowing, it becomes a stagnant pond, and it dies. If a fire stops, the wood turns cold. The river does not stop because it hits a large rock. It changes shape and flows around it, maintaining the current. Your discipline is a current. The moment it stops, it dies. If Raphael felt sick and could not run the full 5 kilometers, the modern person would rest. The Guji practitioner performs the minimum viable action necessary to maintain the gapless streak. If he cannot run, he walks the 5K. If he cannot walk, he puts on his running shoes and sits on the edge of the bed for 5 minutes. The goal is not the physical output. The goal is to enforce the identity signal. The signal sent to the brain must be, "I am a person who does not miss this fixed action." The streak is non-negotiable. If you are a writer and you can't write a chapter, you write 1 sentence. If you are learning an instrument and can't practice for an hour, you play 1 scale. Rest is necessary. But true rest is not a retreat from the identity. It is a necessary pause within the commitment. The only acceptable retreat is death or total incapacitation. Anything less than that requires the minimum viable action. This is the difference between a retreat and a pause. A retreat breaks the current. A pause allows the flow to continue, even if it's a trickle. It is better to do a tiny, pathetic action than to do nothing at all. The consistency of the signal is the final weapon against the inconsistency of the weak. The most common point of failure is not the fixed action itself, but the unexpected obstacle. Life is friction. Travel, sickness, sudden family events. These are the variables that the motivation-driven person uses as justification for stopping. The Guji system, like any elite military or monastic order, deals with this through pre-solutions. You cannot make good decisions under stress. When you are tired, overwhelmed, or sick, your executive function is compromised. This is a basic neuroscience principle. Decision fatigue leads to the lowest energy choice, which is almost always inaction. Therefore, the decision must be made in advance, when your mind is clear, and enforced automatically when the stress hits. This is the if-then protocol. When X happens, I do Y. The moment you identify a potential weakness in your commitment, you architect the solution and encode it into your identity. Raphael, as he built his system, created a rulebook of inevitability. Challenge 1. Travel. The weak response. I can't train because I don't have access to my gym or routine. The pre-solution. If I am traveling, and my fixed action shifts to a non-equipment, 15-minute bodyweight routine performed immediately upon waking, before checking my phone. The time is 5 a.m., regardless of time zone shift. Challenge 2. Sickness injury mild. The weak response. I feel a slight cold coming on. I need to rest. The pre-solution. If I feel mildly unwell, then the action reduces to the minimum viable action, 5 minutes of gentle stretching at the fixed time. Challenge 3. Late night, lack of sleep. The weak response. I only slept 4 hours. I should skip the workout to recover. The pre-solution. If I sleep less than 5 hours, then the action shifts from 5K running to a 10-minute walk outside. The fixed time, 5 a.m., and the location outside are non-negotiable. This is the mentality of a monastery. The rules are not for guidance, they are for automatic enforcement. A monk does not debate how much water to fetch. He fetches the fixed amount at the fixed time, regardless of how he feels. There is no discussion. The answer already exists. By solving the variables before they occur, you eliminate the emotional weight and the cognitive load of decision-making during the crisis. You turn an unexpected challenge into a mere procedural checkmark. The identity, I am an unbreakable person, is reinforced by the fact that no external factor can interrupt the internal system. You are no longer reacting to life. You are executing your predetermined path through it. The man who operates on motivation is a passenger in his own life, constantly waiting for the right mood or the perfect alignment of stars. The man who operates on identity is the pilot. Raphael's transformation was not a slow evolution. It was a psychological death and rebirth. The old self, the one who negotiated, procrastinated, and relied on dopamine spikes, died in the friction of the fixed commitment. The first few weeks were excruciating. Every morning was a battle against the internal gravity of comfort. But as the system held, day after day, week after week, the identity began to anchor self. The physical actions, the 5K run, the fixed writing block became rituals. They were not things he had to do, they were the proof of who he was. The moment of true transformation is when the desire to stop is overshadowed by the fear of breaking the identity. The cost of failure becomes too high, not financially, but psychologically. He no longer seeks comfort. He seeks consistency. When others see this new consistency, they react. They will call it extreme. They will be confused by his lack of variability. They feel uncomfortable because his fixed, frightening consistency exposes their own optional, inconsistent approach to life. This discomfort from others is the final, undeniable signal of success. You are no longer doing the work. You are the work. Raphael doesn't do the run anymore. He is the person who runs at 5 a.m. This is the end of motivation. This is the start of inevitability. The decision is final. The commitment is irreversible. Declare it now. Not to the world, to your identity. Make yourself an unbreakable person with frightening consistency. You don't have a choice. You already decided.